And we are live. Welcome back to the Not Important Gaming Podcast with Jeremy, Reed, and Derek. I am Jeremy.
Derek.
Hey, I'm Reed.
And we've got a really exciting week in gaming this week. There's a few things we're going to be talking about. I believe we're going to be discussing the DOTA 2 International. That was 2 weeks ago now, I believe. Was that correct?
Yeah. Well, it was a week ago today.
Okay.
Was the grand final.
We're also going to be...
No, a week ago yesterday was the grand final. Oh, my days are all mixed up.
No, that's fine. They just kind of blend together for me as well. I woke up this morning, I was like, oh god, we got the podcast today, don't we? I am super unprepared. But that's fine, I got everything caught up. We're also discussing Valve's new game that they're working on, Artifact. And
it comes out in September.
Yes.
Not September.
And the biggest thing we're talking about this week is Cyberpunk 2077. They released gameplay for it, and we're going to do... I've got a ton of notes on it. We're just going to do a big deconstruction of the entire thing. Originally, what I wanted to do was I wanted to just screen share with you guys, and we basically just watch through the whole thing and pause it and give opinions as we're watching it. But I didn't have the technology, and I don't know about the legality of that yet. So
also, I don't have internet.
Also, you don't have internet. That would also be a problem. But anyway, so before we get started, how was your guys' weeks? What did you guys do this week?
I was out of town, family reunion, so just catch up with family. It was nice. Be able to get back into town, work on some school-related stuff, some work, and it's pretty much spent the better part of today just chilling out. So my weekend kind of a little hectic for the first half of it.
Yeah,
kind of slowed down. So yeah.
I moved into my new house in Eugene, Oregon. I am currently alone because the rest of my roommates / family haven't moved in yet. I went out and looked for a job, and I got a job literally that same day, and then immediately started working the next day. So nice. I am already working. I've been working the last 3 days.
What are you doing now?
I work at a local cafe / bagel place that is literally 2 blocks from my house.
Hey, not a bad
deal. It's all right. It's pretty good. I like bagels. Who doesn't like bagels?
Hey, bagels are nice. Bagels are great. I've done a lot of cleaning out my shed, which we're actually now using for practice space for my band, as I am in a local band out here. And that's been a lot of work, but that's kind of been what I've been doing. I got to play a little bit again. I'm gonna play For Honor this week, since the free-to-play thing just ended. And a whole bunch of my friends who weren't really interested in the game before are now like, this is a really great game. Yes, that's what I've been telling you.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah. So I think, without further ado, let's get into it. You want to cover a quick breakdown of the International first?
Yeah, there's just gonna be a follow-up of a little bit of our international coverage.
Sure.
I have not been able to sort of process the footage that I captured. I don't have internet, which means I'm not able to download the video editing software onto my computer, let alone upload the video footage that I do have to the internet without, going over my data caps on my phone. But we will get that out as belated as it is.
Someday it will be on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, in Valve time, which funny enough will lead into a discussion later. But
yeah,
man, it is. If you've never been to a video game competition or convention, of this caliber, I cannot recommend. It's just this is the 8th one that they've done, and the production values are just sky high. The venue itself is just fucking amazing. It was like a big giant hockey rink that the Canucks played at, and the screen was super wide and super crystal clear. Even though it was a big screen, it would look like a 4K. I mean, it was from 100 meters away, it looked like a 4K monitor. So it's like watching the games on a huge screen was just absolutely the best. The games themselves were hype as hell. Really a Cinderella story kind of broke out. I think it talked a little bit about some of the up and coming teams like VGJ Storm and EG, which had done surprisingly well in the group stage, which is sort of the round robin portion of the tournament that happens before the bracket. Well, they continued to do pretty well. EG, the big favorite for the tournament, which was LGD, which is a Chinese team, and Team Liquid, which is one of my favorite teams. They all did really, really well. But the real surprise, like underdog, out of nowhere hit team was Team OG. And to give a little bit of background, just to kind of explain how this storyline played out. Team OG consisted of a handful of players. It was No Tail, who's just like a super sweet human being, Fly, Crit, and and S4. I'm probably getting that wrong. No, I'm getting that right. And they were all playing on OG. They weren't getting really good results. Well, the manager for EG was like, "Hey, we've got 2 open spots." They wanted to get S4 to not S4. Who am I thinking of?
Who are you thinking of?
1 second, I'll pull up the team to make sure. I'm gonna quote my pull up the right information.
Pardon our dead air here.
No. I'm gonna pull it up here. Where's the actual team? Sorry, there's like a huge. I'm looking at the Wikipedia or the Wikipedia entry. So it was it was S4. So it was S4 and Fly. And Fly was like one of the best friends with No Tail, who was like the team captain of Team OG. And just before one of the huge tournaments that happens, it was one of the super majors, which has like $1 million prize pool in and of itself. This isn't even the main tournament. Before that tournament came up, S4 was going to go to Team EG, and Fly decided to go with him because Fly on Team OG was just not having success. So he goes with S4, basically without any warning, without any preamble, no 2 weeks notice. They go to EG, which basically fucks OG because they can no longer go to the super major now because of the rules of the pro circuit. You have to have a team roster like locked in place so long ahead of time. So they basically had to miss out on a major tournament. Not only this, they actually lost their invite to the international. Like, they can't be directly invited, so they had to play through the open qualifiers. This means anybody, any Joe Schmo, can grab 4 of his idiot friends and hop into an open tournament basically and play a shit ton of games, which it's all like single elimination. You basically get 2 days to go through a huge ass bracket, and it's actually like 2 separate. Anyway, if you lose any one of those games, it's like you're out, you're done. And so obviously No Tail had to basically grab 2 new players, and one of them was a completely like unknown professional player. As far as like, his name is Thompson, and he had never played professionally like before the international. So they go into the international. They do okay during group stages. Like, they actually had a really bad showing the first couple of days, and then like on the last day they rallied, won all their games to basically barely make the top part of the winners bracket. And then they the games kind of progress, and it ends up being this EG OG game in the upper bracket, and it's like this grudge match, and the games get played, and they're just some fantastic games. But OG actually ends up upsetting EG. They end up upsetting everybody because no one expected them to win. I think the odds of them winning the tournament, like the betting odds, were like 35-1.
Well, especially having to like wade themselves through the pools first. I mean, yeah, like they weren't even starting out the way that they should have been able to. You know, I mean, they were having to like eliminate, you know, like you said, every Joe Schmo that, you know, came in wanting to compete and work their way up from the very bottom. And so it's like,
oh yeah,
the ultimate tale of like having to do a full progression of the tournament, but you know, where you could have been eliminated at any point, but like also just the huge justice boner factor of it, where it's like, you know, their team like more or less abandoned them, and then they ended up having to rematch them and won, and like ended up progressing.
Oh, it's like
some. It's like,
I mean, if you're a weeb, it's like some straight up anime shit, like some fucking Naruto Sasuke shit.
No, like you can make a movie out of that plot line.
Oh,
I guess
no.
is essentially what I'm saying. Yeah, it's crazy.
You really could. And as this plot line like slowly developed and people were like, holy shit. Oh, and so OG ends up winning that game, but there's like the handshake afterwards, and like fucking No Tail, when he goes to shake the hands of Fly, who's like, you know, his like best friend in the world before all this drama happened, he gives him like this fucking like cold, like fucking dead stare. You know what I mean? And the entire like crowd was kind of like, ooh, because it's like, it was like, oh. And so it's like, there's like a justice boner, but it also hurts because, you know, like they lost their friendship too. It's like, it's some real sad shit. It's kind of fucked up. And so EG drops down to the lower bracket. They end up beating Liquid, which is one of the favorites for the tournament. And so that's like super hype. And so EG is actually playing way better than they have all year. And OG goes up against LGD. And LGD up to this point have been like unstoppable, absolutely fucking like, they're like machines, man. They're like little Chinese machines, fucking like they don't make any mistakes, and they put on so much pressure starting in the early game that basically leads into them just dominating the rest of the game, and it would just crush your spirit whenever you played them. And that's what it looked like whenever LGD played anybody. They played against one of the other favorites, VP, on day one, and they made them look like children. It was absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
And OG ends up like having these like crazy games against LGD where it's like they come back, like they started off kind of like behind on the back foot because LGD just plays so well in their early game, and they just really just made some like their coordination came together as like some real teamwork shit, and they fucking beat LGD, sent LGD down to the lower bracket where EG played them. And EG played them. They put up a really good fight. They had some good looks, but it's like, man, LGD just looked like at the top of their game. And so in the grand finals, it's a best of 5, LGD versus OG. And mind you, this is in Vancouver, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Vancouver has a huge, and I mean absolutely massive, Chinese population. I don't mean that in any like racist way or anything. They're just a lot of Chinese people that live in Vancouver. Like Chinese is like one of the most spoken languages in Vancouver. Just like
that's crazy because that's not something that I knew before you told me that. I assumed it was mainly just like French Canadian. Yeah.
I thought it was. I thought like, oh, they just have a decent Chinese. I mean, he's like, no, there's a huge, and I mean absolutely huge Chinese population. So Vancouver was really kind of the home crowd for the Chinese teams, and the cheers were absolutely deafening when LGD would like do well. I've got video of this. I can't wait to show you guys. Where it's just deafening. We're like LGD, and then like of course everyone kind of the Western side kind of got behind OG, and it's just like these matches were really really great. OG got off to a really early start in game 1. They just looked dominant right out of the gate. They played some very unorthodox Dota, and really kind of like just made LGD kind of not feel comfortable with how the game was kind of going. They weren't able to play the type of Dota that LGD was most comfortable with, and they played really well, but it wasn't like perfect. Immediately, LGD came back and they just looked mega dominant. They played the Dota that they know and love, which is just absolute crushing perfection Dota. And so it's now 2-1 LGD, and they're poised. They're one game away from winning, what is it, $27 million? Let me pull
Money.
well, actually, the first place is $11 million, but the prize pool is $25 million. $25.5 million. So $11 million. And OGD basically go way down, and then like the game looks absolutely lost. But in a sort of like a miracle last moment, they get some like amazing kills, and it's just like some of the craziest team fights in this game 4, which should have been LGD. OG comes back from like I think there's a built-in like AI component to Dota now, where it gives like probability of win, and it like the win probability I think was like 2% or something ridiculously low like that. It was under 5%. I know that for sure. And they came back and they fucking won the game, and it went to a game 5, and this one was probably like the most even out of all of them, and it just was going back and forth and back and forth. And then again, like LGD came out a little bit, but then OG basically, once they kind of got back into it with that game 4, they really came into it with game 5, and they really seem to be playing. There's some amazing plays, including some mind-blowing dodges. Basically, without getting too into it, one of their players, Seb, who was one of the people that Notel brought on to replace Fly in S4, he had some amazing dodges of like there were like some big ultimate spells that were aimed directly at killing him, because if they could kill him, they could win the game basically. And he dodged 2 of them back to back, and we're talking about like almost like frame perfect dodges, and it was absolutely insane. So really just an absolute Cinderella story. The games were hype. As far as everything else, there are a couple announcements that came out. One, they released a new hero. His name's Grimstroke. He's like some demon painter dude. Looks pretty cool. There's going to be a new hero around Christmas time. His name's Mars. We only saw like an outline of him, but he looks pretty sick. Everybody who attended TI, well, I'll mention this in a little bit. And there was like a secret shop and a whole bunch of swag, and I ate a lot of good food. Overall, it was just a fantastic event. One of the other key things that he announced, which was everybody who attended TI got a free invitation to the beta and a free copy of the game Artifact, which kind of leads into our next little bit,
Yes.
which is the first video game released by Valve in what is like 8 years.
God, a stupid long time, yeah.
Yeah. And when it was announced, a lot of people were really upset because it's like the first game Valve's ever going to announce. And it's not Portal 3, it's not Half-Life 3, it's not Team Fortress 3. It's a fucking card game.
Which, like, as a Witcher fan, I remember like when they made Gwent a thing, like when they came out with Gwent, and I was just absolutely heartbroken about that when they were like, yeah, we're gonna release a new Witcher game. I was like, oh, I'm super excited, and it was Gwent, the card game that was in.
Can I be honest though?
Witcher 3.
Like, I'm typically not into like, most of the big card games that exist now. Like, whether it be, I mean, obviously I know Gwent was kind of done at a lower scale, but like, Hearthstone and some of the bigger card games. But like, when I look at this game, I'm actually getting excited about it, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
Typically, I stay away from the entire genre, but like, I'm thinking about this. I'm just like, I kind of want to play this. I don't know why.
All right.
Yeah.
But yeah, Artifact. Let me be like super clear. I don't know much about it at all. So do you want to like give me the kind of the basics?
Yeah.
Of it?
Yeah, just to kind of continue. Basically, this announcement came out basically when trading card games were coming out, almost like battle royale games are coming out now.
Yeah.
Which is like, I mean, Elder Scrolls just announced their like trading card game. Obviously, Hearthstone had already seen a bunch of success.
Right.
There are a bunch of other like mini mobile app ones, and so it really kind of it felt like really, it's like, is Valve really just making a game as a cash grab? Well, what it came out recently, which is, I mean, well, maybe I didn't realize until recently, maybe it was announced later or earlier, but Artifact was actually in development since 2014, and they actually this wasn't even originated in-house. The huge thing, which is that Artifact is being created by Richard Garfield. And do you guys know who that is?
He's the guy who created Magic the Gathering, right?
Yeah, exactly. So this is the guy who created Magic the Gathering, and he wanted to make his own game basically. And he came to Valve with the design, like what Artifact is. He came to Valve with this design, or at least like a rough version of it. And Valve basically used their DOTA IP as basically the lore behind like the cards themselves. So this game itself is designed by Richard Garfield and I think the two remaining members of the Portal 3 development team that Valve purchased. I forget the name of the development team. It was like Crazy Cow Studios or something like that. That's completely wrong, by the way. But
Crazy Cow Studio. What if it's actually right?
It's not. It's probably not too far off, I bet. But anyway, so Richard Garfield and a lot of amazing talent at Valve basically came together to make this game, and this game was even able to sort of survive the in-office politics, which not a lot of games have from Valve. So that says a lot. And starting this past weekend, basically, we were able to actually see real gameplay being streamed from PAX West, which is where the Artifact team is at right now, where people are playing right now, and there's even some quote-unquote pro play. And a lot of people are basically waiting in line to play with different decks. So at this point, I'll probably talk a little bit about the game itself and what makes it.
I remember I saw a bit of the TI last year, and Artifact was announced, and there was a teaser trailer, right? Because I remember seeing a clip of like kind of the crowd's reaction to it. It was the TI 2017.
It was a trailer by the barest sense of the word. It basically just showed like some stones flying in and then the word Artifact.
Yeah, I vaguely remember people, like the crowd just did not like the idea at the time. Like they really did not like the idea of the card game, or like
because
having a card game. It's different from what they're really into, like as a MOBA. But even though it kind of piggybacks off of the lore, of Dota, right? I mean, it's like they still just kind of didn't really want a card game to be a big announcement at the TI, which is understandable, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was just all optics, really. It's just that it looked like a cash grab. But what I think they're really going to show, what I think they've already shown, is that it's not just a cash grab. They've really put a lot of time and a lot of work and a lot of polish into this game. Jeremy, I don't know if you've seen any video or screenshots, but like the game itself looks like, it's running on the Source 2 engine, which is like their newest engine that they use at Valve. The game like looks visually like very, very nice for a fucking card game. The animations are like super sick.
Yeah, well, it does. It looks polished, but like as I'm looking at screenshots of it, it looks very involved. Like there's a lot of mechanics that go into it. It's not just like playing as hacking a defense, unit against each other. It's like there seems like there's definitely more to uncover with this, which I think that's kind of what's interesting to me is.
So it ends up playing a little bit more like a MOBA or a strategy game than like a card game, if that makes sense.
Okay, in the sense that you're playing on lanes.
Yeah, it's just like it's so much more involved than just like one side versus another side, and it's my thing hits your thing until it dies. There's a field kind of to consider.
Yeah, like lanes being integrated into the game. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, so I actually know how to play the game. I've watched a number of games now, and it's got me excited. So the game works like this. There's actually 3 boards to kind of that the cards can basically be played on. There's a bit of an RNG element that comes into play, and the game breaks down to this. There's you start on the left board, and then there's an action phase where basically each side takes turn doing an action. So think of it almost like even like D&D in a sense, where it's like there's I take an action and then you take an action, I take an action and then you take an action. So it's not like one person gets to play all their cards based on all the mana that they have, and then the other person gets to play all the cards that they want. It's more of like I play a card and then you can play a card, or different things like that.
Okay.
And there is a mana system that is sort of similar to Hearthstone, where it's like each turn there's more mana involved, and there's certain games you can only play in sort of a like late game. and basically you will put down units, and you're trying to defeat the enemy units to basically attack, sort of like Hearthstone. You're trying to attack like something behind the enemy units. It's a
like
tower.
A leader, sort of.
Yeah, sort of, basically. And the basic principle of the game is that in each of the lanes, there's a tower. If you can take down the enemy tower by reducing its health points down to 0, it exposes the Ancient. And if you can destroy the Ancient, you win. Or if you take down another tower in another lane, you also win. That's another win condition. So basically, it allows for strategy, so it's like you can put all of your focus into one lane and try to take down that Ancient. But the Ancient has a lot more HP, so it's like you have to take down a total of 120 HP of both the tower and the Ancient. But if you only want to take down 2 towers, it's only 80 HP. So it's, there's a lot of strategy. You can't just like focus on one lane and ignore the others, but you might be able to kind of do something like that. And so you're constantly moving, trying to move pieces around. Also, you can only commit like your hero cards, which are sort of your main monsters, to one lane until they die. So in certain situations, you want your hero to die in one lane so that when they respawn, you can basically put them in another lane. So there's a lot of strategy that goes into this, and it's really fucking cool. The other thing that makes this really interesting is that there's a gold mechanic. So if you kill enemy units, you get gold from that, and then after the action and the battle phase happens on each of the 3 boards, there's a purchasing phase where basically item cards come up at a shop, and they're randomly drawn from your deck, and you can buy those items, which don't cost any mana to play, but you have to have gold. And so certain decks are designed to like acquire more gold and mana ramp up so that you can get like to the late game faster. So I mean, there's just like I think that's like a black green deck plays like that. And so there's just like so many different strategies and things. It's really fucking cool. I highly recommend if this grabs your attention at all to like watch.
Do you think this game has the potential to overtake Magic the Gathering as like a? Since Magic the Gathering is kind of the biggest, like, big monolith in card gaming right now.
I wouldn't think that'd be possible, dude. Like Magic the Gathering just has, like, if anything, they just have the fact that they're, the veteran card game on their side. I mean, there's so much money that's gone into it.
Yeah, and that's like, I think the real question would be, does this have a chance of taking down Hearthstone? And it's possible, man. Like it's just like. The only issue is that I think that Artifact is going to be a slightly more complicated game. Mm-hmm. Not like full-on MOBA complicated, but compared to Hearthstone, which is as simple as... to a veteran Hearthstone player, I'm sure Artifact wouldn't be a hard, difficult jump. But to like a casual Hearthstone player, it would be quite a bit of a jump, because suddenly there's like a whole bunch of stuff going on. It's like it adds about like 2 or 3 layers of complexity compared to Hearthstone.
The core mechanics of Hearthstone really aren't that difficult to understand. Like, unless you're playing kind of at the pro levels of Hearthstone, where there are these very kind of involved specific strategies that they use to based on the heroes that they pick, which is another question I have that I was going to ask you going into this. But that otherwise, it's a relatively simple game. I mean, as turns go on, kind of like you said, it increases the mana that it gives you, and each card costs so much mana. So the bigger cards are of course more in game, but it just kind of builds up from there, and essentially you're trying to just kind of tear down the thing behind the cards on your enemy side. But what I was going to ask you is the towers of the Ancients that you're talking about, do they have kind of a variance with them as well, kind of like Hearthstone, where there's specific characteristics to them in the way that they allow the deck to play, or they have certain effects that kind of bring themselves out during battle?
Yeah, but it's more like yes, but in a way that like Magic is, because in Magic you have different colored decks. And this has that feel to it, so in that sense is like your actual the towers themselves don't necessarily do that, but the decks themselves. Because Hearthstone, they don't have like they have themed decks maybe, or themed cards that have synergy. But in Artifact, they're like colored cards, so it's like they're actual, like there's red cards and blue cards that have like a different sort of theme and feel to them. Like red cards tend to just be like beefy, strong cards that are really, really strong early game, but fall off late game. And there's blue cards which are really weak early game, but are really strong late game. And so it's like, that's kind of where it comes in, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, because I was just thinking about it, like trying to compare it to Hearthstone, because I know the way the Hearthstone works is like, you know, the heroes that are in the back that you're trying to kill, it's like, you know, one hero might, you know, it kind of, its special effect is that, you know, every other turn, like it'll play a zombie card like up front, which just kind of adds, you know, more things for you to have to deal with. Another one will like, you know, has like a shield of like, you know, +2 or whatever that you have to break through every turn.
Yeah.
You know, and so there's variance in the way that you deal with even the things behind the cards as well. So it adds another like layer of strategy to it.
One thing that really makes Artifact really unique is instead of like, you know, like, oh, you know, my entire, I mean, like certain decks are built around like one monster, but not often. Just because it's like, well, one card and that monster is fucking gone or dead, or, you know what I mean? Artifact actually will only have, like, they'll have like different summons basically in it, but it's hard. I think each Artifact deck, I might be not entirely correct, I think only has 3 hero cards. Maybe it's 4. I think it's 4. And if those heroes die, they go to kind of like the fountain. But basically, after 2 turns, they respawn. So those heroes are something that's going to be coming back repeatedly throughout the game, and they have cards that are attached to those heroes. So it'll play kind of in that way, if that makes sense.
So you have to
make instead of having.
So you have to make the best out of the time that you have after taking out a hero.
Yeah, I mean, and also that's another strategy. Is like maybe you don't want to kill the hero this turn, because you know you can kill the other hero next turn, and so if you can take them both out now, that means they're going to both be off the board, and they both, you know, it's like, so there's a bit of strategy in that sense. Artifact's really weird in the sense that it's, I mean, not weird, but it's really unique in a sense. It's both unique and ununique because it takes elements from both Hearthstone and Magic and from MOBA games. And so it really feels similar to all of them, but it feels very different from all of them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's because a good thing, though, if done right, yeah.
Yeah. I've seen it. I mean, I can't wait to play the game myself. There's a great sort of casting with Sir Action Slacks, which is a Dota personality, and Bruno, who is also was a Dota personality, but now is Valve employee. And they do a cast of basically this guy playing the quote-unquote champion, which is like the best closed beta Artifact player, and they basically they walk you through the whole game and talk about it. And
so you said
really
the open. So you said the open beta begins in October.
Yes, and there'll be ways to get beta keys for that. I don't know how, other than your boy has one, and I'll see you guys when I go to the Artifact International. I play for $1 million.
I gotta see
dude,
who I need to perform sexual favors on to get a hold of that beta.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, when that comes out, I will play the crap out of it and I'll report back. But yeah, just kind of that was a big surprise that kind of came out because I knew Artifact was coming out. Distraction Slacks had basically looked at it behind the scenes like a while back, and he, like from the get-go, it says, fuck all the haters, I'm telling you right now, this game's gonna be awesome. If you love Dota, you're gonna fucking love this game. It's gonna be awesome. Anybody that says it's stupid or that Valve is doing a cash grab doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. And because he said that, I kind of like held out a little hope, but I was gonna wait. And until I finally saw gameplay, yesterday actually, I was a little bit but now that I've seen it, man, I'm hyped. I'm on the hype train.
I think a couple big things. There are two really big details that I would say I'm looking at when to, kind of how well this is going to do, like if I could take a guess. And one is that, I mean, yeah, like when's the last time Valve has made a game of their own? They come out the gate with this, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Secondly, like Richard Garfield, the guy who was the creator of Magic the Gathering, like the OG card game that is still like leading the game since the 1990s, like the early to mid 90s. I mean, the fact that like the guy who did it first and did it the best, you know, even up till today, you know, is the designer behind this game. I don't think those two things are coincidences. Like Richard Garfield and Valve kind of stepping up to the plate to like do this big project. I would hold out hope for it for sure.
Yep. I mean, I would say I'm also kind of compromised because like I already have a free copy of the game, and I asked myself, if I didn't have a free copy of the game already, would I pre-order it? I almost would say yes, because I've actually seen gameplay and it looks solid. Here's something controversial we should talk about, because this is maybe the downside to the whole shebang, which is the monetization of the game. I don't know if you guys haven't heard, but basically the setup for the game is that you pay $20 for the game, so it's not free to play.
Right.
You do get like 30 card packs or something like that out of the gate. You get like a starter deck too, so you get a starter deck, you get 30 card packs, and after that I think it's like $2 for a card pack or something like that. But other than that, there is no other way to get cards. There's no way to grind for cards for free. So there is an accusation of it being pay to win.
Oh yeah, but I mean at this point it's like what card game
which
is it?
Yeah. So it is kind of valid. Well, I mean, but in like, you know, in Hearthstone and stuff like that, you can grind for cards. It'll take fucking forever, but you do have to grind for cards. So there is one thing too, is that because unlike Hearthstone, you can actually like trade your cards in Artifact. And so the thought is that if you get cards, like you get duplicates that you don't want, put them up on the Steam market, they'll sell, and then use the Steam cash to basically buy whatever cards you want on the market. So it is kind of interesting in that like you can always cash in duplicates that you don't want, but there's no way to grind for cards. So yeah, it's interesting. So that is controversial, and I can't really defend that. But
no, that is kind of indefensible. Just at least the detail that you can't grind for cards, that it's like you're just stuck with a pay to win system, because like I know card games typically have been like that. I mean, dude, like the typical person who's even somewhat serious about Magic the Gathering is probably dumped at least $1,000. You know, over the years.
It's nuts how much money you can dump into those.
It's insane. Yeah, absolutely. I think actually it's crazy because the rarest card in Magic the Gathering, I was actually watching a video of this.
Isn't that the Black Lotus?
The Black Lotus, yeah. This is like first edition. I don't know. It came out in like some packs back in like the mid 90s, and that are still kind of circulating around today. But like somebody pulled it from his pack, and apparently like that single card, which I don't know what the effect of Black Lotus is. It's something that's like relatively small. It's not like a super OP card. It happens to be
I
like
think you can
rare thing.
Well, it is pretty strong if I recall. It's like you tap it for like 4. It's like a ridiculous amount of mana, like right away. But it's not like any color mana. It's not like any specific color. It's like any color you want.
Gotcha.
But you can tap it right away for like 4 mana or something. So if you got turn 1, you could like turn 1 win. They're like turn 1 win conditions, I think, if you drew like Black Lotus and like some other cards.
Yeah, I would imagine if it's something that's like too strong, though, they probably would like they probably wouldn't allow it in certain rules. You know how they kind of like disallow
there's
certain
like tournament
cards.
rules.
Yeah, right.
I don't
but I mean,
know
the one
if it's
card is like
legal, but it might be. I know certain
$38,000 or something like that for the one card. Like that's the valuation that they put it at. It's just insane. It's like, yeah, I mean, you know, you typically don't see stuff. But I guess that's just to say it's kind of par for the course. Like, I mean, if you're looking at Hearthstone too, like even with Hearthstone where you can, you know, grind for the cards you get, it's a relatively lengthy grind compared to just putting the money
Oh yeah,
and getting
people
what
drop
you're
money on
trying
that
to
like
get
it ain't
from the
nobody's business.
Exactly. So like Hearthstone is turned into a game that is entirely, for the most part, pay to win. You know, in the way that you would generally look at the game, and people have dumped a shit ton of money into it as well. So it's like this game becoming like that. I would say it's just kind of par for the course. But the thing, like you said, that I don't like about it is like if it's true that you cannot grind for the cards and you're essentially having to pay for extra cards. I mean, that's just.
You know, I saw a really great video talking about trading card games and digital ones and how so there's this whole pay to win aspect, but there's a thing with like digital card games too, is that they get rebalanced too. So it's like you might so let's say there's like a meta that develops around like an expansion that happens. This happened recently with Hearthstone. I can't remember the name of the card, but basically there was a crazy card at a high mana cost, but when you played it, basically any card that you'd like sacrificed or something was like resummoned, and if they had any battle cries, all the battle cries that had been like made before it could be repeated, and there's some battle cries that would repeat any certain cards, and basically there was like an infinity chain that would happen if you summon this one card, and it was like really, really strong, and it took a lot to build up, but it was like, so it kind of had to be like nerfed and rebalanced. But this is like a pretty rare card that you had to like grind a lot for or spend a lot of money for it. So it's like if you spend like $40 trying to get this card and you get it and it becomes a part of your game just so you can, like your deck, so you can be competitive, but then the card gets nerfed, it's like that kind of leaves you like kind of holding the bag. And so it's just I'll have to look up the video here in a little bit. But it was a really fantastic video. It talked about trading card games and how they can do things that regular cards can't do. So it's like you have like limit unit caps, and like there's certain things that you would never want to do because it would just be impossible to do in a real life game, because you'd have to manually, like if there's something like it had a 1 in 3 chance of doing damage to every single monster on the field, you'd have to stop, roll a d6 however many times and see if it was this, and then just like stuff that would just be super tedious in real life, they can do with digital card games. It makes it like really unique. It was a very fascinating video.
It certainly sounds like it. I don't know. It definitely sounds like something I might be interested in, even considering the fact that I never really have been into card games. I might be willing to give this one a try, especially if it's a little more involved than most card games. Yeah, definitely sounds like some exciting stuff though.
Yeah, looking at the logo for it, Artifact, it's right underneath with the DOTA card game. So it's just like, I guess it's trying to just be super official about the fact that it is following in the footsteps of DOTA's.
Alrighty.
Yeah, no, it definitely seems pretty interesting. I'm definitely gonna give a look at it, and if I can possibly get access to the beta, I wouldn't know how, but I guess maybe some information on how like the non physical like TI crowd that saw it, that got that beta access code. If there's just a way that the general population can also get beta access to it, I'll probably be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, there's a couple really good ones. There's like the Artifactors Guild, and I think their Twitter is like Artifactors Guilds GG on Twitter, and then like Artifactors Guild on YouTube. And this is basically, there's apparently been, because it's been a closed beta, there's been this whole community that's been building around Artifact, like in the background, that is just now sort of coming to light. The Artifactors Guild is one of them, and they have like really good tips for everybody that wants to get into Artifact. Anyway, I found that video I was talking about. It says "When Card Games Break," and it's by a YouTuber named Austin McConnell, and he talks about he basically talks about the differences between paper card playing card games and digital card games, and it's just a really fascinating video. It's only 14 minutes and 30 seconds. Would highly recommend watching, especially after, because this came out before Artifact. It's pretty applicable.
Yeah,
All
no,
right.
I'll definitely give that a look.
Yeah.
But I guess just the final note, yeah, it's going to be released on November 28th, 2018. It's coming to Android and iOS devices in 19, so something to look out for.
Yeah.
Very
Get
excited. Keep an eye out for it, folks.
So excited. Yep.
All right. I think we're ready to move on to our final topic. This is the big one. I've got a ton of notes on this, about 5 pages. So we've got
Yeah, now that we're done talking about the big game news, we can talk about the
we can
small
talk.
stuff.
Yeah, we can talk about the little game. Just
Just
you
a
know,
small indie development team.
I believe
Out of-
the game is called Cyberpunk 2077, something like that.
Is that it? It sounds like trash.
My mom told me not to cyber when I got my computer.
I
the
cannot
first
tell
time.
you how excited I am for this game. And like I said before, what I wanted to do was do like a full, just have us get together. I would screen share the gameplay trailer. They released earlier this week, I believe on Monday, 48 minutes of gameplay.
Sort of like a Mystery Science Theater.
Yeah, that was kind of the idea that I have, but instead of making fun of it, more in the interest of
Gushing over it?
Yeah, exactly, gushing over it. But more importantly, like going into detail, kind of discussing, what we think about the different mechanics that they showed off. But unfortunately, I don't think we have the technology for that yet. What we can do, however, is we can kind of. I took a ton of notes. I believe Derek, you looked over that as well and took some notes.
Yeah, I went through the video a few more times. I'll be honest, this weekend's just been the first half of it at least has been kind of shitty. So
No,
I
that's
didn't really
fine.
timestamp stuff. Yeah.
That's fine. I got a ton of notes. I didn't timestamp anything, but I've got a boatload of notes to go off of, and I at least have them in a relative position to each other. But yeah, I mean, getting into it, I mean, the first thing they say before they show you anything in this trailer is they make it very, very clear that what they showed, and it's the same thing they showed to the developers at the last E3, or not the developers, the journalists at the last E3 conference. But they wanted to make it very clear that it was a work in progress, and that everything that they showed is subject to change, if need be.
They're going to turn everybody into different types of dog.
Exactly. It's going to be a furry game by the time it comes out.
Cyber Rough 2077.
Oh, please.
Somewhere in the United States, Rags is a very happy doggo.
We don't need furry endorsement right now.
Sorry, I've been playing Undertale, and I'm at that point where you meet all the little dogs, and it's really cute.
So the first thing they show in the 48 minutes that they have available is kind of the character building screen, and they kind of discuss. They do a little bit of discussing, but I had to do a lot of pausing and taking notes. But the first thing they show you is you select your gender, and they have the two characters. They're standing there, both just completely naked, kind of blurred out, like Sim style.
What if I want to be gender fluid?
That doesn't look like an option just yet.
Sorry, I don't want to kick that hornet's nest.
When I saw that it was like male female, I was like, oh.
Is it weird that every time I see that as an option, I was like, I'm just waiting for the ball to drop. I don't know. I don't want to get too deep into it, but.
But it's nice to see, and I know this sounds very nudity, blah blah blah. But it's nice to see that CD Projekt Red is not shying away from nudity. And throughout actually, that was the first thing I saw when I saw it on Reddit. I saw that big NSFW tag, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's how it's gonna go down."
You know it's gonna be good.
No, this is good though. This is like the new direction of gaming. You're starting to see this across the board now, like Red Dead Redemption 2, horse nuts. Like we're
yeah.
all out.
Yeah. I will say it's I'm pretty sure that when that game finally comes out, well, first of all, it's super awesome that they've got a full character creator. I think that's a great return to form for a lot of RPGs, which I think have skimped heavily on that, or have just in a very character creator light version.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I want to say is I can't wait for all the Let's Plays that come out when this game finally releases, where everybody just makes like these sort of like Dark Souls-esque, just monstrosities of
Oh my
people.
god. The amount of hours I spent the Dark Souls character creator making the most hideous character I could. Anyway, moving forward. So once you get done with selecting your gender, the next thing you move on to is your backstory of your character. And
Love it.
They have three major. It's very much in the vein of like Mass Effect. You remember how you were able to pick like where you grew up, how you joined the military. It looks a lot like that. So the three major sections.
Or Dragon Age.
And yes, Dragon Age as well. Really, any like newer BioWare game. The three selections they have, or not selections, but the three categories that they cover are your childhood hero, your key life event, and why you moved to Night City, where the game takes place. Under childhood hero, they have the three sections they have available. I'm wondering if they're going to expand on this and add more, but the three that they showed were the samurai rocker boy Johnny Silverhand, the solo of fortune Morgan Blackhand, and the corporate god Saburo Arasaka. Which I know Johnny Silverhand is an iconic character from Cyberpunk 27. I don't know if the other two are. I meant to look into that, but I didn't get the chance to. But just already there, I mean, just in the character creation screen, they're doing a very good job of world building. And I'm curious to see how that plays in. I don't know if that's going to have like an effect on stats. Or if it's just going to be
it definitely has an effect. It seems to have an effect on just the outside world in general. I mean, you saw the music that was playing when Johnny Silverhand was selected. Yeah, exactly. It was having a real effect on your environment.
Well, I believe what they had selected for the character was the corporate god Saburo Arasaka.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh. Huh.
They specifically said during that part that
but it
will affect the gameplay, and that your story, that your background will not just affect your character, but it'll also give you options that you might not otherwise have.
Yeah.
In the actual game.
The next one was the key life event, and the three that they showed. Again, I'm curious to see if they're going to introduce more later, but they had Death of a Sibling, Ran Away from Home, and First Big Kill, which all looked really cool. I want to see how that plays in. I'm wondering if there's going to be like a part where you're where you're talking to someone, you're bonding with them, and you kind of they're you're like, yeah, no, I had a sister, my sister died. I wonder if you're gonna have a moment like that in game, because that was the really cool stuff about The Witcher was there were very emotional moments in The Witcher where Geralt he would bare his soul to this other character.
Yeah. None of those sound really nice. None of them. There's no big life event option for ice cream at the park with my dad
with a big pile of puppies.
Oh, that would be a huge life event for me. Are you kidding me?
Right.
A pile of puppies?
A whole pile.
But I think it actually it makes sense in terms of the lore of the game. Kind of how they said that Night City is just it's a place of complete corruption and crime, where it's just that is the standard. That's what's taken over. So even not to get too far ahead, but a lot of the NPCs that you interact with, some of the ones that would seemingly be just kind of really neutral characters, were even really aggressive and assholes. So it's just that's how everybody is. You kind of have to come from a tough environment or backstory to really adapt well to that. So it was interesting.
And the last section of the backstory was why Night City, and the three options they had were unfinished business, ex-lover in town, and something to prove. Which I think that's going to be kind of your character's personal goal throughout what you're doing, which sounds very cool. Honestly, I'm really excited for the character creator, the backstory system in general, and I'm hoping that moving forward they're going to add more. The next step was the biometric scan, which appears to be Appearance Creator Part 1. It looks like you're pretty standard character creator. They got just a bunch of presets, and then you can change the shape of your face, different parts of your face. That looks all pretty stock and standard. And then the next section is Appearance, And that seems to be more of like your accent stuff, I believe. They had like sections like for tattoos and piercings. There was a clothing option, so you can kind of change how your character is dressed without armor.
I'm so excited.
And then
looks so good.
They had one of the things I did notice was that there were various sliders for selecting different visual augmentations. So like you could change the way your eyes look, you could change the color of your augmentations. So if you really want glowing purple Augs as opposed to glowing orange Augs, they got you covered there.
Yeah.
Oh, looks so cool.
And the last section they had as far as character creation was your bio stats, which is kind of your standard stats. And the 6 stats, I believe the 6, were your strength, constitution, intelligence, reflexes, which I believe translates over to like dexterity in a traditional RPG. Tech, which I'm imagining is kind of your ability to, well, I mean, based off the name, I'm assuming it's your ability to interact with technology. And cool, which I can only assume is your basic charisma stat. I counted out the amount of points that they had allocated. I don't know if this is for sure. I don't know if they work on some like kind of special point buy system, but it looks like you have 25 points to play with when you build your character. So you can kind of divvy those up however you want within those different stats. I don't know if there's a cap. It looks
10
like...
out of 10 cool.
Exactly. 0 and everything else you don't need anymore. But the other
I might not be good with anything. I might not know what I'm doing, but I'm gonna look cool doing it.
Other thing they discussed is they had a fluid class system. So basically, I mean, not necessarily like Skyrim where it's a classless system, but more in the sense that you can kind of on the fly change what your character is specializing in. I'm imagining fear kind of plays into that. I'm imagining.
We might get into it a little bit later, but there's like definitely like this whole perk purchasing system.
Yes, I do have that covered.
And yeah, so maybe that plays into it a little bit. I'm not sure. Yeah, there's still a lot that's way ambiguous about this.
So
it'd be cool if they kind of like take a note from like The Witcher and it give you a potion that can allow you to like completely reslot or restat.
Yeah, I'm curious. Definitely had piqued my interest because I mean I'm real big about character creators and games and stuff like that. But right after
I really think about like the world itself and how it's like at any time you can like basically rebuild parts or entire sections of your body into cybernetics, and so like it's really kind of see how it's like how you are modular, that like your class can also kind of be modular in a way. It's like, hey, I want to be a stealthy ninja backstabby. I'm gonna like install a bunch of stealth augmentations. Oh, I want to be a big fucking tank. I'm gonna put my head onto a P1 Sherman. You know, it's like.
And they kept mentioning Netrunner. It got me so excited. Like,
I know the Netrunner. Okay. We'll go ahead and move on.
Yeah, I know we got a lot to get through.
Yeah. Oh, we got a ton to get through. We're still on the first page of my notes right now.
I know.
So the next thing to go on to is they actually they just kind of throw you right into shit. You're in this missing person. The main character is tracking down a missing person who they believe has been kidnapped by these scavs is what scavengers.
Scavs.
And what these guys do is they basically they strip out augmentations from people and leave them for dead. So they kind of drop you right off, and the main character V, along with their partner Jackie, leave this this elevator in this like dilapidated apartment building. There's spray paint all over the walls, and I really thought it was really cool. And it really shows like the detail they've gone to the world. As they're going down the hallway, like this woman like steps outside to figure out what all the commotion is, and you're able to like there's a prompt that comes up, and I wasn't able to read what the prompt was because the person pressed it very quickly. But what it seemed to do was the character actually like shooed the person back into the room and was like, go inside. I guess another thing to note, and a lot of people are upset about this, I tend to disagree. The game is all in first person.
I think it's fine.
I like that it's in first person, but then just in general, I tend to be a fan of first person games. So maybe that's just me. I know a lot of people were hoping it was going to be kind of The Witcher, but Cyberpunk, but I don't know that that's really the way to go for this. I think it has enough of The Witcher as is.
Yeah.
I don't know. My opinion. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. That's just kind of what I think about it.
And they've said in interviews that they're aware that people don't like the first person perspective.
And that's one of the things they do say in the thing as well. They're like, we hope now that you've seen this in first person that you understand why we chose the first person perspective. We believe it's good for the immersion, and that it will just in general help you get into character better.
When I always see like certain big games go like either first person or third person, I tend to think that it was a decision, from the development side as to like what would be best to work with the system that they have. And it's like, you know what I mean? Like you have to believe that there's a reason why they wanted to make it first person rather than third. They weren't just like, oh well, how are we gonna, what's the perspective going to be? And it was just like, oh well, fucking let's flip a coin. It's like no, there was more that went into that decision. It probably, I guess what I'm saying is it probably wouldn't have been that great to work with everything that they had they gone third person. They would have to revamp certain details.
Yeah. I definitely think it's a good idea, and that's the thing. I trust CD Projekt Red to make a good decision. They very clearly care about their games. So I'm willing to trust them on this. And personally, I do think the changes for the better.
I mean, when you see that gameplay, how the fuck could you not?
Right. Moving forward, they enter the apartment, this dilapidated apartment building. It's even worse inside. Like there's wires and computers everywhere. There's a woman who's been cut open on a stretcher in the middle of the room. And then they kind of move forward. They find their first one, and the character sneaks up behind, holds him underneath the water, and just shoots him dead right there.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to be scripted or if that's going to be a repeatable thing or
I'm hoping that
or if there's going to be multiple other scripted things, or maybe it's just because it's like in the opening level.
Yeah,
but it looked cool.
It certainly looked cool. And I'm wondering, because the next thing I saw, like after they did that, was that the option to pick up the body popped up. So it certainly seems like stealth is going to be a viable way to do everything, which is great because I'm a huge stealth game fan.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me a little bit of like Deus Ex.
Yes, that's exactly
there's like multiple
what I thought.
ways. There's like multiple ways to accomplish the mission. I really hope that holds true. And I don't. There's no reason why it wouldn't be, but. Moving forward, they move into like this big room and they get into a firefight. Before they enter, the character takes this inhaler and uses it. And in the voiceover, with kind of the narrator for the gameplay, they say that this inhaler will allow the character to temporarily use an ability called Kereznikov. He says it so awkwardly, too.
I know, he does.
Like, this is Kereznikov. He's like, oh.
He's trying.
It's like, literally, this is just Jet from Fallout 4. But I get it.
Well, I like it because it slows down. It slows down time. It allows you to kind of take time to figure everything out. It reminds me of like the bullet time system in Fear a little bit.
Yeah. It kind of throws me off a little bit because it's like you seem to be able to shoot multiple shots in like slow-mo and then speed them all up. So it's like the physics of it are kind of weird. It's not like, I don't know.
I think that the game
do you know what I mean?
Yes. I think the game is
maybe
operating on a rule of cool a little bit.
Yeah, and maybe it's just like there's like a plausibility in it, and that like maybe that's just her perception of things. I mean, I don't know. It wasn't like game breaking, and it didn't like, immersion, but it was like it was something that seemed a little off.
I'm sure there will be a lore explanation moving forward. They have this big gunfight. which they used Krasnikov a couple of times, and it certainly looks really cool.
There are health bars.
There are health bars, and there are numbers bursting out of people. That I'm not super wild about, but if it's anything
maybe there's
like,
a setting.
if it's anything like The Witcher 3, then there is a setting, and you can turn it off. It'd
be cool if there's like a higher difficulty mode where you don't get that information.
That would be really cool. I also noticed fairly early on there is dynamic cover destruction, and one of the things.
Oh yeah, when that fucking pillar blows out, like
yes,
that was so. I creamed myself actually.
That and there's soft walls, which I mean we've mentioned it multiple times. I love Rainbow Six. The fact that there's soft walls, you can shoot through walls, you can blow holes through walls. Man, I love everything about that. So there's this hacker, this net runner, I believe her name is T-Bug, who is helping them throughout their run as well. And she seems really helpful because she has like the layout of the apartment that she can tell you where to go, and she opens different like doors for you. I'm hoping that she is kind of a mainstay character because she seems super useful to have around.
Yeah.
As well as Jackie, kind of the protagonist partner. Also very cool. I love. He cracks me up. He seems like a really fun character, and I hope he sticks around as well.
They're immediately gonna die now.
I know he's gonna die like within the first 20 minutes of gameplay, huh?
CD Projekt Red are listening right now, and they're like, "Well, there goes that. He said it. That means we have to kill him."
They kind of move forward. They find the person they're looking for, and this is where you get kind of your first actual taste of the dialogue system. And one of the first things I noticed was that the world is still going while you're talking to people, or at least in terms of like when somebody says something to you, and you're kind of selecting. They don't just stare blankly at you and wait for you to make a response. Yeah. They'll kind of prompt you.
Oblivion, Skyrim,
yes. They'll kind of prompt you like, hey, like we got what are you doing? Which isn't anything revolutionary, but it's always nice when somebody has that in a game. It just kind of helps you with the immersion. So I noticed one of the things you can do is because they find the girl that they're looking for, and she's in bad shape. They need to carry her out and take her to like a trauma team. But you're able to make like even kind of like small scale decisions, which I really like. Like you can either choose to have Jackie carry the girl, or you can carry the girl and have Jackie cover you. So like it seems like it's really involved as far as like making decisions in a mission.
Yeah, throughout the whole gameplay, there's a lot of stuff like that, and it really makes me happy that it's like because you're always I love it.
Yeah, it looks very cool, and just it seems like the natural following point for The Witcher 3, where you did have a lot of control. It just seems like they're just kind of following that path they've already paved and moving forward, going even further with it. And I really, really like that. But they call this trauma team, and this trauma team is like, they're like this paramilitary medics that show up.
Dude, that was crazy. I was like, man, this is not your regular ambulance.
And they were like, they were ready to shoot you. Like, so, just to give you a taste of the world, they're constantly on edge, and they're ready to shoot you just for not standing far enough away from the person they're trying to take away.
Right, yeah, which I think kind of expands on what I was talking about before, about how even the people who you would think would be least prone to that type of attitude are completely about that. It's just like you can't escape hostility in that environment, just in Night City. It's just everything comes around from circle. So it's like you play a character that's more or less already adapted to that.
I'm pretty sure the Walmart greeter would probably like point a gun at your face in this world.
Yeah. They're just like, get what the fuck you need and get out. That's like their version of hello.
Hey, you stealing shit?
Yeah.
Cut me in.
But yeah, no, and they even showed like the levels of the trauma team, and they were like level question mark. So those are some badass guys. So it looks like they're dudes you don't want to fuck with. I kind of wonder if you're going to like later on need to fight some of those guys.
I'm sure that there's going to be some. I mean, it's Occam's razor, right? It's like, why show it if you're not going to use it? Or maybe that's not Occam's razor.
That's Chekhov's gun is what you're thinking of.
Chekhov's gun. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, that absolutely is going to be a thing. Whether they're fighting on your side or fighting against you, there might even be opportunities for both based on your decision. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's kind of what the game's all about, is decision.
Oh, love it! Oh,
I know,
love it,
man.
Is it too early to call it Game of the Year?
I mean, I already have multiple times, so
it already is going to be Game of the Year for sure when it comes out.
So I mean, that's pretty much the end of the mission, and they move on to like 3 days later, in V's apartment. V, the main character, and you know she wakes up.
With somebody
who quietly and quickly leaves.
Yes.
She goes through her morning routine, picking up an empty bottle, grimacing at it, brushing her teeth, getting dressed, and then she receives a call from Jackie saying he's got good news.
Real quick, I just want to hit something. So it's like, as they say, you're able to like interact with people. I wonder if that was like some random NPC, like the guy she wakes up with. Was that some random NPC that she developed a relationship with?
Yeah, because it wasn't somebody that we had seen prior to that point. It definitely wasn't Jackie.
Yeah, I wonder if it's like Fable in a way. It's like any random NPC you can chat up and like fucking make a relationship with.
That would definitely be cool.
That would be fucking hype as hell. Like, and imagine like it generates like quests. You know what I mean? So it's like, let's say you start dating somebody, and then like their ex-boyfriend, like their psycho ex-boyfriend, comes after them or something like that, and then you have to go on this whole side quest for your girlfriend. And like, if that's true, like that would be fucking awesome. Because he says like a line, I think, when he says like, as you can see, you can interact with people in the world. So I really hope it's way more in depth than just like there's the designated, you're not like limited to a certain set of romantic options is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Yeah, but after the interaction, or where Jackie calls you and tells you that he's got some big news, they want you to come downstairs and meet him. You're able to kind of look around the apartment. The first thing they mentioned is that there's a song, like it's like this 90s industrial, like kind of Marilyn Manson sounding song they're playing.
Oh, it sounds so good.
It does. It sounds so good. And they say, this is Johnny Silverhand. And on the radio, actually, if you pay attention before the song plays, the DJ talks about how Johnny Silverhand had, quote-unquote, his last ride a year ago. So I think Johnny is dead at this point in time.
Rip Johnny.
Rip Johnny.
And from what they said, right, like what the commentator had said while the song was playing is that like that's actually original score for the music. Like,
yes.
I think so really cool detail there.
And really, just in general, it's like aside, like the soundtrack of the game is absolutely gorgeous. I love it. It reminds me like part Blade Runner and part Hotline Miami.
It's so fucking good.
I love both of those things so much. But the V walks around the apartment and comes across her gun. And I decided to take down the stats for the gun. So the first thing it says the Megan model, which is about the only thing it didn't take down. It says there's a rare weapon, so there's going to be like item qualities. Like, I think it's going to be your standard, your common, uncommon, rare, legendary, that kind of general stuff.
Right. Yeah.
It covers its DPS, its PNT, and that's the only one I'm not entirely sure what it is.
It is because I watched a video talking about this shit. What was it? Penetration.
Penetration. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, yeah.
Especially with
That's what
with
people
soft
think it
wall
is.
covers. That would make sense if
Yeah,
that's what it is. Accuracy, rate of fire, recoil, spread, and range. And this is kind of seems to be the character's like signature pistol. So that certainly looks really cool, and I think that's going to be like I think this is going to be a big gun that you're going to have throughout the game. The next thing that V does is she grabs her jacket, a samurai jacket is what it is.
It looks so cool. I want it.
And the details for that, it's an uncommon general. So I'm wondering if on top of like grade of equipment, there's also going to be like another form of grade, like general, military, stuff like that.
I think that just means like it was the general slot.
Oh, okay, that would make sense as well. And
Because I don't think she'd be a general this early on in the game.
Yeah. Well, general is in like general clothing, not general as in like the rank general, but like
Oh yeah.
like general like standard clothing, and then there's like military clothing, there's there's gang member clothing. I'm wondering if that's what general means.
Oh, maybe.
So-
It's possible. It definitely does tie to your street cred though, which is
Yeah.
really important.
That was the thing, is it increases your street cred leveling speed by 5%. And street cred seems to be like a big deal, especially when you're
I think it's like the
interacting with
XP
other-
system for the game in a way.
I believe it's like
It
a
might as
social
well
XP.
Yeah, it might as well be, because it just seems like that's a very important substat to build. And when I originally saw that jacket in her closet, yeah, especially with the stat, about it, that it increases your street cred gaining ability,
Mhm.
it just kind of made me think. I was like, yeah, that's probably an uncommon gear, but it might also be the jacket you start out with,
Yeah, I
because
think
it would seem like a very good starter stat to be building up.
Yeah, later on when she hits street cred level 2, she's able to get a perk. So maybe it is tied to XP, or maybe it's like there's different types of XP, or I mean, like I say XP, but maybe there's like different things that you can level up, and that's just one of them.
that's what I'd imagine. But the other stats on it were, and I'm thinking this is our 4 types of damage in the game. It had physical resistance, thermal resistance, EMP resistance, chemical resistance at varying stat values.
Yeah.
I'm thinking these are our damage types. So like your physical obviously is going to be your like just shooting someone in the face. Thermal is probably like fire-based weaponry.
Incendiaries.
Incendiaries, flame
Maybe
throwers.
lasers?
Maybe lasers, that would be cool. EMP being like, obviously EMP grenades, I'm thinking like electricity-based weapons just in general.
Yep.
And then chemical resistance, the only one I'm not sure how that's going to translate over, unless it's like maybe
Maybe
poison-based weapons.
Or like a super concentrated acid, you know what I mean? It's
Super-
like if
well,
you're
yeah, I
fighting
mean,
somebody
really-
and they're made out of metal, it's like
Yeah,
bullets ain't
I
gonna
mean,
do
really,
shit.
really anything that goes into chemical composition that could be like a catalyst that could spark an explosion. Anything that could react, violently. I would imagine. I mean, but it sounds pretty all encompassing. Those 4 damage types. I can see those being the real ones that the game would be based on. Because I doubt we're gonna see any magic of sort. It just doesn't seem like
Yeah.
the
Right. Yeah, this is in Shadowrun
right.
for sure.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah,
boss later on. I mean, not to spoil anything, where you do see resistances. Like you see
Yes.
that he's got a high thermal resistance, and that comes into play.
Moving forward, V exits her apartment and starts walking around. Basically, they say that the people live in these giant mega apartment complexes, and when you're walking around, it's like its own. Like this would be like the hub world of a different game. It's so big and expansive. There's so many people, so many shops. Like it almost reminded me of. Did you guys see the reboot of Dread?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but I saw the trailer.
It almost reminds
basically
me
the
of that. It almost reminds me of that with how like expansive it is and how many people there are, and the way it's laid out. It's crazy because there's this guy like on the side of the street who's boxing this robot. There's advertisements everywhere. Man, it feeds into this like the cyberpunk like Blade Runner aesthetic so well. Because just everything feels like corporatized, and like it's streamlined. The character goes and buys like the soda. There's a weapon store that was in the apartment building, and there was a character at that weapon store trying to give the character a quest. It looked like, but the V just walked right past him. And at this point that they make like V gets in an elevator to take it down to the ground floor to meet Jackie. And they say that one of the things they're trying to shoot for is no loading screens, which in a game this big and this expansive, that's going to be a tall order.
If they can manage to pull that off, that'll be something for sure.
I mean,
if
you can do
anybody
it without
can
the elevators of doom from Mass Effect.
Well, and I saw somebody was mentioning that. They were like, well, the elevator itself, the elevator ride, would be a loading screen. If they're doing it right, I guess they could use that as a loading screen.
Yes. And it was actually really cool because during the elevator you got to see like the outside world. And well, that's the thing. That's why I'm wondering if it's going to work like that, because you were able to see, you were able to see the streets going by. You were actually able to see yourself getting closer to the ground in the elevator, because it was like an open glass elevator.
Yeah.
So I don't see how they'd be able to turn that into a loading screen when you're able to see where you're going, because that was the entire trick with the elevators of Doom, was you never got to see how close to the ground you were because it would ruin the illusion.
I mean, it's a little bit. It's not as technologically challenging today, I would think, because more and more computers are running on solid-state drives and stuff like that, and so maybe it's not too far of a cry for it, like, to maybe be just sort of like technology dependent. And it's like, well, for the most people with SSDs, it'll load really easily, and maybe just like the back end is just really optimized.
Yeah.
And then like maybe it'll backfill later, as far as like rendering and stuff like that, or maybe it'll just like kind of like debuff the textures until you eventually catch up, and it just like it does, so that way it like sacrifices visuals for load times and stuff. I'm not sure, but I mean, technologically it's not outside the realm, especially with how fucking amazing computers are getting these days. It's
not impossible. I definitely don't want to say that. I'm just saying it's going to take a lot of work. Again, like I said, if anybody can pull it off, I have faith in CD Projekt Red if he wants to do it.
Agreed.
So once they get once V gets outside and it just gets on the street, you just see how many people they have loaded in. And I tried real hard to find like duplicate character models. I don't think I saw a single pair person looked identical. The closest to looking the same where there were a pair of monks that were talking to a group of people. I mean, they looked like Tibetan monks that were just on the side of the street, like talking to a couple of people. But there were just so many people, and every single one of them looked unique, looked individual.
Right. Yeah, I was kind of looking for reskins as well. I was told loosely, I didn't actually go in and check to confirm this, but apparently Angry Joe in his video to his reaction on this, he did find a duplicate NPC, but it was like even he apparently had said that it was like he could only find like a one pair or so versus like any of the other games that we've seen where it's just like one out of every like 8 NPCs are going to be a reskin. It's like that. Hardly ever found that in this game. So it's like even if it does exist, like the fact that it's probably going to be like a 1 in like 70 odd or something like that, like maybe even more than that. I mean, it's just like, yeah, kudos to them. It wouldn't even have to be perfect. I'd already be still impressed.
Oh yeah. No, it definitely.
One
was.
other note about the characters that I saw in sort of like an analysis is that a lot of the characters kind of had like generic names. This is like maybe one of the few downsides I had. And then it was pretty easy to spot out which ones were like quest givers because they had names above them. But maybe it's possible because like there's a screenshot like later on where you're like there's like an optical analyzer or something. Maybe you just like people are just generic to you until you get like you analyze them. Like I mean that was one of the things like Watch Dogs did is that they made all these characters, even if they're just Joe Schmo people, have these sort of like mini backstories, no matter like how light. And so maybe that's the goal here, in that like it's something that'll be unlocked later. But because that was just kind of one of the things that did kind of catch me off. It kind of just like seemed like a rare spot for them to overlook when everything seems so attention to detail. So that's just one thing I noticed.
Yeah, no,
I think it is pretty crazy though. Like when they, kind of like when Jeremy said, like when they went down to the street and like you saw, just all the people like surrounding you. I mean, it just really kind of puts in perspective like how big the scope of this entire game is. Like, I think I remember the detail that the commentator said, like when you were walking out of your apartment for the first time, they were like, the apartment building, just the complex that you live in itself kind of functions as like a micro society in and of itself, which is just to say that like, there's so much into this game. And like, when you get outside of that, I mean, it only becomes like this little subsection that you start the game in could already be like, you could spend hours having things to do within that, but you break out of that and it's like, you'll just find that somewhere else, and it's like all across the city. It just makes me kind of wonder like what they didn't show, like the full scope of Night City, like that they didn't show. I mean, I'm sure it just, it's seemingly it's going to be a big thing for sure.
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, after V gets outside, starts walking around, I noticed, like, man, I thought there were a lot of advertisements in the apartment building. There were so many ads out there. And there was one in particular that I noticed that made me laugh. It was called Brain Bleach. And there's nothing special about it. I just thought it was really funny.
I could use some of that, like, I don't know, after... especially after that conversation we had earlier, Jeremy, without context.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna leave that at that.
V kind of walks through this crosswalk, and she actually waits at the crosswalk, and I was wondering if that was just like a choice on the part of the person playing the game, or if that's actually something that you need to do, is wait for the crosswalk to turn green before you can cross.
There's some plainclothes police officer nearby ready to like give you a ticket for jaywalking.
I mean, the amount of police presence in this game, like that wouldn't shock me. Like that was the other thing I noticed, is there were cops everywhere. Like everywhere you turned, there was another cop standing there watching you. So
yeah.
like,
I mean, it definitely really adds to the world.
Yes.
What it's like.
So I don't know. I mean, just from like a gameplay standpoint, that doesn't sound like super fun if you have to wait for a crosswalk every time. But I don't know. That might have just been
I love how the crosswalk, like it created, like it was like a screen basically that you walked across.
That was super cool.
Indicated it. Oh,
like the lines would like flow across the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was really cool.
Imagine somebody like hacking that. They'd be like, Joe Schmo was here, or...
Oh, I wonder, that would actually be like a really cool, like, I wonder if you could actually,
digital graffiti?
No, well, digital graffiti would be really cool, but like if you could assassinate somebody that way, like hack into a crosswalk and get somebody who's like not paying attention, they're on the phone or something, and they're just like watching the ground, and the crosswalk comes on and they start walking across and get run over by a car.
Dude, that feels like an option in Hitman.
That absolutely feels like an option in Hitman. Now I want to play Hitman.
Dude, that game's coming out soon.
I know. I'm so ready for it.
Well, we can talk about that.
It's a different conversation, different time.
Yeah, no joke.
So V meets up with Jackie, and Jackie tells about how he made a deal with has set up a conversation with this like big roller in the underground, this guy named Dexter Deshawn, and you get in Dexter's car to talk to him about what he wants you to do. And he says he wants like kind of to have this test to make sure that you're good and that your relationship can work out. And one of the first things he goes is like, man, he looks really cool. He reminds me of what is his name? The guy from Pulp Fiction. The kind of the mob boss guy. His last name's Wallace.
Crap.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
But he reminds me a bit of him, but like sci-fi.
His name was that Zed?
No, Zed was the completely different guy in the movie.
Yeah.
But just like his whole his whole style and demeanor, because he's really cool, real calm, collected, like whatever his name was throughout the whole movie. The guy's got he had a TV in his car, and he had like boxing playing. That was the other thing I noticed. Everyone was watching boxing matches all the time. I'm wondering if that's like going to be like a big thing, if like boxing plays a big role in the world, or if they just at the point in time they only had one thing to put on the TV. Was boxing match.
Dude, that would be so hype. Fucking like people boxing robots, boxing people.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they think that we're buying Cyberpunk 2077. We're really buying Boxing Simulator 2019.
No,
Sci-fi
we're
Boxing
really
2017.
We're buying Mike Tyson's Punch-Out 2077.
I know.
Fucking, not to be too much of a weed, but it kind of reminds me of an anime that came out last season called Megalobox, which is like this sort of dystopian future where people like cut off their own arms to replace with robot arms to box each other. I kind of want that to be a thing.
But the other big thing that happened during that conversation was when they showed up how you receive mission briefings. It's through these things called shards, and you just stick it right into a jack on the side of your head, and it kind of hijacks your vision and shows you all the details, what you're doing, and while the characters are watching this, there's Dexter Deshawn's talking about, okay, so this is what you're gonna be doing, these are you're gonna be dealing with. You can ask questions about about the different people that you see in the briefing and stuff, which opens up different avenues to deal with your issue, deal with your problem.
Can we talk about how that's such a great narrative tool?
Yes.
Because imagine how many games where you bring in somebody else in the mission, and then there's this whole awkward scene or something where it's you have to then re-expose all this information to this character so that they can know it and then kind of buy in, and it's you just avoid all of that. It's
here's plug this in.
Plug this in, done. Just takes out that whole thing. Oh, yeah, really great narrative device. Love it.
Yeah. They drop her off out at a Ripper Dock, and Ripper Docks are kind of they're like a cyber.
Great name, by the way.
Yes, fantastic name, man. They're kind of the
I was
guys.
being sarcastic. That's horrifying.
No, I love it. I think it's super.
It's big.
I would not like to live in a world where there are guys called Ripper Docks, but I would love to play a game where there are guys called Ripper Docks.
Especially when he's your barber in a way. It's all
Yeah, no, he's
you know what I mean?
Who switches out your cyber.
I said take off a little off the top. I didn't mean that much. Yeah.
But like he dropped you a couple blocks away, so you kind of walk down. And one of the things I noticed was that like you could buy a mixtape from a guy, and man, that like that cracked
That's
me up.
hilarious.
Yeah, and I hope
SoundCloud rappers that
That's
evolved.
Is that an evolution or a devolution? Because
I don't know. I don't want to know.
but
Does
I
that
did,
do the fire damage that we do? If you have fire
dude.
resistance, does that apply to their mixtape? Why is that so funny? I'm sorry. Go on.
you're such garbage. That was a terrible fucking joke.
Go ahead. It's so stupid.
So they show off this crime reenactment. They show this crime reenactment that the cops are doing. And that looked really cool. I'm wondering if like you're gonna be able to do that at some point. Like you're gonna have to help like an investigator or something. And you're gonna get to have control of this like reenactment. You have to like rebuild a crime scene, kind of like LA Noire in a way.
Or like Detroit that came
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
You mean the David Cage game? As there is only one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, was that the? No, I thought there was another one that was like it that they created beforehand, right? So I think you were showing me clips of it.
Oh,
It was just like
no,
another-
it was a joke. David Cage only has one style of gameplay, and that is quick time.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah.
But yeah, no, you get to have a look at after V gets in to the doctor. You get to have a look at some of the upgrades that are available, and there were five that were visible, but only three of them I was able to read all the way, and the fourth one I was able to read a little bit of it. The three that I was able to read were the Hiroshi Optical Scanner Mark 1, which is like an eye implant, and it's a basic scanner that scans objects to gather basic information and progress and progressive quest. And that had a price of €300, which is the currency of the world. And it had a humanity cost of 2. And that was actually one of the things I was curious about, like what humanity cost is. Like, is that a static number that you get at the beginning?
I think, like, I imagine it's like Fable, right? Where it's like the more your actions like affect, like if you get mods, is that gonna affect how people interact with you? Like,
I'm
you know,
wondering.
like immediately after that, she runs into her bud and he's like, "Oh damn, you're looking good" or whatever. And like, imagine if you get some like all these fucking mods. You got eyeballs coming out of your nose or some shit.
Well, later on, they
And,
do at the end. Well, not the end, but like the towards the end, they show like this gang of dudes.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah, the
they're
Maelstrom.
like he explained. The narrator explains like, you know, these guys take augmenting to like a whole nother level that's unacceptable even for this world. And like
See,
these
they're the
guys-
ones that actually go to the Ripper Docks like they're barbers. Like
Yeah.
that's like they're just there every weekend. Yeah.
And those guys, like, they had like the front half of their face missing, and it was just replaced with tech. And like there was like one dude who had like a chunk of like an entire like quarter of his head removed.
Dude, that guy was fucking nuts.
Yeah, no,
But I
he
imagine,
is.
yeah. So I
Um,
imagine the humanity is tied to that, maybe in a way. It's like,
Oh yeah, I could see that for sure. I mean, humanity to me, at least, it would sound like on the surface, like the more body modifications you get, the more you're replacing the human side of you with a complete robot. I mean, you're essentially becoming a full-on cyborg, but like it's kind of about the splitting of your body. Like at one point, maybe you were 50% human and 50% like robot, and now you're just kind of completely shifting to something like the Maelstrom, where these guys are like 80% mechanical, and it's like so you lack humanity, you know, to a
That'd be
large
really-
extent.
it'd be really cool if that again plays into like what your options are like later on. Like, what if there's like a stealth mission where you have to like impersonate a waiter or something, where like that's one of your options is to impersonate a waiter, but if you lost too much humanity or if you look too fucked up, it's like nobody's gonna hire a waiter for their rich ass party that fucking like looks like fucking that. So it's like maybe it also makes it hard to get a date, you know? What if maybe your love interest will break up with you if you fucking
what if you have love
robots.
interests that will only date you if you have like ogs out the ass?
Dude. See, I mean that's what I'm saying, is like it hints at something that has a lot of possibility.
Yeah.
This game sounds also like it has a ton of replayability as far as like styles and like styles of gameplay and stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely. The other
so
ogs
cool
that they had were the Kiroshi Optical Scanner Mark II, which is a basic scanner with upgrades that allows you to identify structural weak points in machines and vehicles. And the Subdermal Grip, which enables the use of locked weapons with a 50% damage reduction, and it increases your melee damage.
Yeah, small note, that Subdermal Grip, so if you notice at the very beginning of the game, there's no HUD for your gun as far as like ammo and stuff. After she gets the Subdermal Grip, it shows the ammo.
And actually a reticle as well.
Yeah, and a reticle and stuff like that. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I wonder if there's ways to like kind of turn it up too for like if you want, like, because I personally would want it without a reticle, but that's just kind of the way that I like my story-based shooters.
Yeah. And that Kiroshi scanner was the thing I was talking about earlier, where I think that might be the thing that maybe allows you to look at the names of the NPCs. I don't know.
Maybe. Well, there was one last thing that I was able to get like part of. It was a military something scanner something. And the description had a basic scanner, and then it cuts off upgrade, and that was cut off allows one, that was cut off in humans, and that was cut off. So I have no idea what that is, but I thought that was interesting that there's even better scanners than the one that allowed you to identify weak points in different vehicles and stuff. And later on, you actually do see, like, on a scanner, like, the character scans a person and it says, like a way to reduce their threat, but it doesn't say what that is. It says if you have a better scanner, then you would be able to figure out how to reduce their threat level to you. It was also really weird, like, because being out of body, when the scanner's installed, he actually pulls your eye out and like works on it a little bit and then puts it back in. So it's really weird having that like out of body experience where he like turns the eye on while it's still out of your head, and you can see out of it, and like you kind of waves it around before sticking it in your head.
Yeah.
And you're able to actually scan the doctor, and you're able to see kind of like some basic details about him. His damage type, physical, his resistances, which you have low for physical, medium for fire, and low for toxic and EMP. His predicted threat, which is very low, and he has one weak spot, his head. And then they said you were able to actually see other illegal river dots as well.
Ooh.
So you could get like military tag and stuff like that.
It's so cool. It's almost kind of like maybe like Zelda in a way. Is that once you get unlocks, like maybe it unlocks like entire like. What if you get once you get the scanner thing, you see like maybe when you're going through like a shadier section, like a place that you thought was a wall is actually a door. So you get access to this whole different area. That
would be so.
I mean, this is all speculation or whatnot, but this is all stuff that maybe they have put in. And it just gets me so fucking excited.
So then Jackie and V they get in a car. They head out to go meet with some corpos, basically some people that some people involved with the job that Dexter Deshawn hired them on. And kind of while they're driving out, they notice while they're heading out, they notice a guy just like hanging around their car, and they get kind of weirded out about it. And you later find out that guy was actually with the scabs from the first mission.
Yeah.
And they were looking for revenge for you shooting up their place.
When you well, another thing that was there is like after you scan that and you see like if something's not right, there's an option to back out, which I thought was really, really cool. I wonder if that's like a viable option. You know what I mean? Like it actually is another real choice that this game gives you. Decision making, I fucking love it.
But they decide to go forward. They hop in the car. They take off, and these scavs show up in this van. They knock they open up the back doors of the van. And there's dudes like all like packed in there like sardines, fiery guns out of the car that you're driving. So Jackie takes the wheel, and V leans out and starts shooting at the guys and takes them all out. And I'm wondering if that's like an on rail section, or if you're able to like lean back in and take control of the car and have Jackie shoot. But it was definitely a really cool set piece.
Mm-hmm. I feel like just because it's a set piece and it's probably like GTA in a sense that it's like in order to get a really cool cinematic experience, maybe they do kind of like lock it onto a rail of some kind. Well, even in GTA, it's more like they don't lock it onto a rail, but it's like even if you're driving, it's like, well, if you don't follow the target, you insta lose.
Yeah.
And so you're stuck following the target, and so you're stuck kind of going through the cinematics.
Well, that's the thing. That wasn't even like a mission thing. That was the way they explained it. That was just a random encounter. Like that was just a response from the scavs who were pissed at you for shooting their place up last time. So, like, your random encounters are actually tailored to the decisions you made in the past.
Yeah.
I'm betting if they'd handled that mission differently, and like gotten away clean or something, that
did it stealthily or I don't know.
Those scavs would have never known about them, and wouldn't have chased them down.
You wouldn't have had that whole like road altercation that you had with.
Yeah, exactly. So moving forward, they finish off those guys, and then they drive off to meet these corpos, basically these corporate spies. And man, is this lady high strung? Like she is freaking out the whole time. Before they go into defense, V scans the SUV that the corpos came in. That sees like the name of it. It's armored SUV, unknown owner. They show the model, which is a Chevalier, and the armor type, which is composite. Like, man, this thing is a freaking tank. They meet up with the corpos, and like they have this big like altercation. They actually hook V up to a lie detector and ask her questions like, "Did you come alone?" And V chooses to say no. Like, no, that's a lie. They ask her, "Do you know this guy here?" She's like, "No, I don't know who the hell that guy is." They're like, "Damn it, that one's the truth." But they end up striking a deal to try and handle a non-violent option with the gang hideout, which comes up next. In working with these corpos, and I don't know, it's just more character decision. It's just this really cool, like being able to handle everything without having to shoot everybody. And that was an option. There was even like when they first held a gun up to V's face, and pretty much throughout the entire conversation, she had the option to try to grab the gun.
Yeah. Again, more choices, more options, which is, and they seem like fucking choices that actually matter. Oh, so cool.
Something that really stuck out to me was like the moment when they kidnapped the guy and put him back in the SUV. How they were talking about or how he shouted out at the very last second as you were walking away from that deal that you were making like a big mistake and that she's about to get taken down and you're going to get taken down with her. Like, it kind of makes me think, it's like, after the fact that we did what we did in like storming the Maelstrom's hideout, is there something that we don't know that this guy knew that's going to kind of like become an issue if we did choose to get involved with the corpos and actually, instead of doing the entire thing on our own, like getting the technology that we were wanting, that spider, like on our own.
That's a good
taking their hand out. So yeah, it's just kind of another thing to really think about. I mean, I'm just wondering if they already kind of calculated that into the game.
That's a very good question. That's I didn't even think about that. But yeah, no. So they after this very tense deal with this corporate agent, they move on to this gang hideout, and they get in. It's really tense. Like these guys are like I said before, they're like really messed up. Like they have pieces of them that are missing, and they're all really like angry. And the place is just like booby trapped to all hell. There's mines everywhere. There's turrets. But they end up striking a deal after this really intense interaction, where Jackie like absolutely escalates things for no reason. But they
because why wouldn't you? Because it's cool.
Exactly.
It's your street cred, bro.
But like things get really tense for a while, and like this, their leader shows up, and like, who the fuck is this? And then finally you manage to work out the deal. You buy this drone off of them. This actually got me wondering about I'm wondering how drones are going to play in combat. I even wonder if you're going to be able to do like a full drone build where you don't do any of the fighting yourself. You just like have like this army of drones that you can send out to do your bidding. Like that would be like a really cool play style.
Well, I think it was really cool because something that it's small, relatively small detail, but that kind of talks about what you're mentioning. Is I don't know if you remember, not to skip too far ahead, but like when you do get out of their hideout, the corporate drone is already like waiting for you at the door. It's like scanning you immediately, and then like she proceeds to say like "good work" as if she knew what you did while you were inside. So I'm thinking like maybe there's an element of being able to kind of like UAV, like oversee the entire complex, with one of these drones and like get like an X-ray, almost perspective of what's happening like within certain buildings and whatnot, that she would know what happened or that you were successful in your mission without even needing to talk to her, herself. It's like this thing was already kind of feeding her intel while you were inside.
Oh, man.
Or something like that. I don't know if I'm reading too much into it, but like, yeah, she definitely knew that everything was successful before it even happened. But yeah, who knows?
No, that would be
privacy is an illusion.
Especially in a
or
world
maybe she heard the explosion from the inside. Yeah, I mean, it did blow up the whole fucking or power out the whole building.
Yeah. So the other things I noticed is after shit hits the fan and they enter this big fight, they kind of show off they show that there will be multiple routes to kind of deal with these things. Like you can, if you have a high hacking skill, you can try to hack your way out through things. You have a high engineering skill, you can try to break through things that way. It definitely it looks really cool. They show off the slow-mo move again.
When she does the engineering, you do get parts from that, so it makes me wonder if that's like there's a construction mechanic.
Yeah, no, that's actually because they go to a pause. They go to a pause menu after picking up the shard to activate the drone. And yeah, no, that actually is in the pause menu. I was able to see so the different subheadings they had. They had a codex, which is probably pretty standard, like lore stuff. They had a quest section, a biomonitor section. That's the only one that kind of has me stumped. I'm not sure what that is yet. unless it's maybe like your progression system, like your skills and stuff. They had an inventory, and under inventory there were 3 subheadings for your style, your equip, and your backpack. They had a GPS section, a crafting section, and a social section. And the social section actually makes me wonder if there is going to be, because they mentioned they weren't entirely sure if they were going to do multiplayer just yet. I don't know if social means within the world, or if social means like multiplayer social.
I don't know. I don't know. It probably just means like some sort of like external connection thing. I don't know, because
It could be.
CD Projekt Red doesn't seem to be like the studio that would like, hey, like, do you want to share this triple kill that you just got on Facebook? Like, it doesn't seem like they're the type of people who can.
Yeah, but less like, do you want to share this triple kill, and more like, hey, do you want to invade your buddy's world? And stuff like that.
Like, yeah, that would be cool.
Kind of like what Watch Dogs tried to do, but it didn't go over so well. Like, that would be a really cool multiplayer mode, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
So maybe it'll be something like that. I don't know. Again, CD Projekt Red hasn't even said for sure that there will be a multiplayer yet. They said they're considering it at this point. And the other thing they showed in that pause menu was the inspection system, which really reminded me of LA Noire. It's like you're able to get a close look at night and kind of look it over, and it gave like details about it, like they were looking at the shard, and it gave like details on how it worked in lore, like stuff that you don't need to know to play the game, but stuff that was really cool to know regardless. And from there, there's this big action scene, and I kind of noticed a lot of things. The first thing is the character gets he gets the shotgun. This is like really cool. Like, it's got like these mods on top of it, and it, like as she's using it, like she's actually like it was a good way to show off that there's actually a dismemberment system in the game.
Another great fucking addition.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
I love dismemberment systems. You can see how long I've played Killing Floor 2 to figure that out.
They do not fucking hold back at all in this game.
Oh yeah. And then at that point they said they unlocked the character. Basically they added a whole bunch of new abilities for the character to show what a high level character would look like in the game. They showed off like a ricochet shot thing where it would actually like give you a targeting resolution, so you could bounce a shot off of one thing and hit a guy. They showed off like a double jump maneuver. They showed grenades, which they hadn't shown up until then. I'm imagining that. I'm sure that's not like a skill, but that's probably like some higher level equipment that you can get.
The highlight from that point was Jesus Christ, my legs.
I know. Okay, so I actually had that down. Okay, here's my note for that exact moment. Jesus Christ gets headshot off my legs.
Yeah.
It's just a small thing, but I hope they iron that out by the time it gets there.
No, yeah, multiple people pointed that out. It's like, yeah, so his head was already rolling by the time that he said that.
But that was in slow-mo. I'm sure. I'm sure this being a work in progress demo they were just showing off. I'm not like super offended by it or anything.
Yeah. No,
but they showed off one of the AUGs they showed was that you can see enemies behind walls, and they showed off a smart gun. Man, I love smart guns.
That was so good.
They showed up like this combat arena, and the combat arena was really cool because they had like, it was really involved. There was like cover that was moving to and fro throughout the whole thing, and like they were shooting out like God, it looks like it was just like paper that were in these racks, and like they would shoot, like it would tear out holes in the paper as they shot it. like slow-mo, well, she like double jumps up to this like bridge or walkway that goes across, and slow-mo shoots these like guys one after another. And then later on they show like you can actually hack guys, and you can actually use that to like shut down people's guns so they can't shoot them, and you can use that to like get information. I'm wondering, I really want to know how that plays, but it gives a lot of incentive to try and play a Netrunner, I think. Because they said that was like a high level Netrunner ability to hack into one guy and be able to access all of his buddies.
Yeah.
And they showed
Netrunner was like one of the first words that was said in the video, like when it opens up, like past the character creation screen, like when she's entering into that apartment complex for the first time. It's like they start talking about Netrunner. I'm just like, oh my god, because like if you really had like a full encompassing aspect of like, you know, people trying to hack into, you know, the corporate, you know, sensitive information and stuff like that, it's like that could be like a multiplayer if they did implement, you know, would be like a whole thing of like kind of hackers versus, you know, corporate overlords type of thing. You know, it would just be something along the lines of that. But I definitely love what I've seen so far in the game of just them expanding on that and the hacking statistics as well.
Oh, absolutely. They showed off these mantis blades, and that was actually in the original trailer. That was just like this really like moody, atmospheric thing. I think they had a different vision at that point for the game. And I don't know. At least The Witcher was diversion of this attitude might still be in the game come release. But they showed off the mantis blades from the original trailer. And it was just so cool to see because you could like cling to walls with them, and you could jump down and stab guys in the head. And then the last major thing they showed was a boss fight, and the boss fight looked really cool because like you had to identify the guy's weak point, and then you had to like shoot this like explosive bit off of his back. But the entire time he's fighting, he's in this mech suit, and he just like it fires so hard that actually there's a car that's on a lift in there, and he shoots the car off of the lift. So I mean, you can really get a feel for like the weight and the gravity of the guns that are being used in the game through that. And they have like the slow-mo sliding ability, like a soccer slide, and it slows down, and that's how V's able to get in and shoot this explosive pack off of his back. And the last thing that shows we discussed a little bit is that you're able to actually like make contacts off of optional abilities. Like if V had never pursued the corporate direction with this, then she probably never would have made what appears to be like a quest giver that you're actually going to be able to interact with later. You might never be able to interact with that Corco if you hadn't dealt with her for that one mission.
Again, it's just like this game seems like it'll branch out so much, and that there's it's so like choice.
And the last thing, the very, very last thing they, and this was actually something that, this is actually something that was a user, JohnnyBoy82, on Reddit found within minutes, or probably not within minutes, but within a couple hours of the video being released. He posted this message, and it says, there is a hidden message in the last frame of the video. And this is the message. Sorry to have kept you waiting for so long. Did you like what you saw? Because for us, the fact that we're finally showing you Cyberpunk 2077 is huge. Please go to our forums, Twitter, Facebook, Discord, and do what you think. And do tell what you think. Is the game world how you imagined? Do you see what we meant by immersion when we talked about Cyberpunk 2077 being first-person perspective RPG? How does our vision of Cyberpunk by day make you feel? We really want to know. Aside from that, we think we owe you a few words of explanation on why we're showing you this gameplay now, sometime after industry professionals and media saw it at E3 and Gamescom. Each time we discussed the idea of showing the game to you, and we discussed this idea a lot, we were ending up with this we're not 100% sure limbo. Why? Because for most people, when a game dev shows gameplay footage for their game, it means that this is how the game is going to look or play like. It's not the case here. Cyberpunk 2077 is deep in development. We have a lot of design ideas, a lot of mechanics being play tested, but we don't know what we'll end up with at launch. This makes publishing videos like what you just saw, risky. We don't want gamers saying, but in that previous video, that gun was shooting differently, or why did you change the interface? Change is inherent to game development, and there's a ton of things being modified each day. Our fear was, and kind of still is, that you'll think that what you just saw is how Cyberpunk 2077 will look like. What gave us that extra confidence to show you a work-in-progress game? Good initial feedback from people who are accustomed to seeing games in various stages of development. What they told us, and they told us they really liked what they saw, gave us a boost we needed to show the current version of Cyberpunk 2077 to be the most passionate and insightful audience, you. So here's what Cyberpunk 2077 looks like today, or rather looked like when we recorded the video. We sincerely hope you liked it. Again, thank you for your patience and all the thoughts you shared with us. Yours, CD Projekt Red.
I
Dude,
love that
hats off to
transparency.
them, man.
I know.
Yeah, totally.
The level of honesty, transparency, and just the strive to make a quality product for their fans. It's like, I feel like we've been missing this for a number of years now. For just in general, the industry itself of video games. It's like, I want us to get back to this like full on mainstream. I want the focus really to be kind of like what the team at CD Projekt Red is attempting to do with this. I mean, it's if we had more people truly trying to cater to the will and to the wants of their fans and making just exactly what it is that they know we want, that their biggest fans want, then they're just going to have a loyal fan base for life, and these people are going to hop on every project that they decide to get themselves into.
Oh, absolutely.
So, kudos to them. I hope everything for this game goes well, and from what they've already shown us with that gameplay footage and with that message at the end, it makes me think that there's really no way that they're gonna, potentially mess this up. Yeah, I think any changes that they will make to the game, being that it's still in development, I think the final product of it is just going to be, if anything, building off of what we've already seen. So that's going to be amazing. Just the fact that what we're probably going to see is going to be even better than what we have already seen just with this gameplay footage, because that was already amazing. So yeah, I can't wait.
I mean, we would have to see maybe something that's a bit more final as far as gameplay footage. And I know we've had the discussion before, but seeing what we've seen today and knowing their track record, would you pre-order Cyberpunk 2077?
This has me a lot closer to doing it, but again, it's just my core policy. I don't pre-order games.
But it's like way closer than like.
But it is way,
previous.
yes.
Like compared to other stuff, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, my mindset is exactly what Jeremy's is. Like, I am not somebody to pre-order games. I think that it's just I just don't do it.
It's
but
not
this
to say
has me. Yeah, this has me a lot.
I know.
What if you knew that pre-ordering it would actually like help them like further develop the game? You know what I mean? Like it would give them options of like as far as like.
This is the thing. I would rather
because they
make a
can show
donation.
so many pre-order numbers, they can like guarantee like funding or something for further development.
I would rather, honestly, them ask for donations than I would them ask for a pre-order.
Okay, that's fair.
That's the thing. Because pre-ordering sets a precedent for the gaming community in general. it sends a message not just to the company who made that game. Because I have absolutely no problem buying a CD Projekt Red game before it's done. My issue is that if I buy a CD Projekt Red game before it's done, every other game company is going to see, oh, see, they're willing to pay for games beforehand, so we don't have to finish our game. I know CD Projekt Red's going to finish this game, whether or not I pre-order it. That's just the kind of company they are. But every
It's
single
just kind
pre-order...
of an image of what that does to other companies who
Yes.
don't carry themselves like CD Projekt Red in that sense.
Exactly.
I completely-
Which is why, like I said, I would much rather CD Projekt Red ask for donations, give a good reason, offer, basically just open a Kickstarter. I would absolutely pay for a CD Projekt Red Kickstarter, hands down. And I think that's the fundamental difference. Is there is, I mean, with Kickstarter, there's at least a degree of like. Kind of community backing, and they're kind of beholden to the community. Where and I mean, again, CD Projekt Red is the company that I think that you don't have to have them beholden to the community, because they're going to do right by their market in general. But at the very least, to show to show other companies that look, there is a certain degree of trust that has to be had before we're going to pay for a game before it's made.
Well, and it doesn't allow for any ambiguity or like false pretense in what their motives are. Like when you just say, "Hey, can I?" You know, if it's about needing more funding, well, you can do that in two ways. You can set up pre-orders. I mean, that's essentially what the concept of a pre-order is anyway. It's not just like, hey, put $5 down so you can reserve a copy. I mean, it is that, but it's also, can we start getting in some money for this right now based on what you've seen and how excited you are, so that we can like further fund our means to like finish this out.
Absolutely.
But the problem is with that paradigm is that like some companies, would rather just literally wallet that cash, rather than to actually invest it back into the product to make it, to continue making it as good or better than initially expected. So it's like, you have a very dangerous precedent that can be sent from just, to companies who do not care when they understand that like, oh, well, people are willing to just throw their money at the game before it's completed. Whereas like, hey, can we get, donations for this game? Or they have a donation button on their site, just simply says exactly that. It's, we need money to help fund the game. We don't want to lure you into like a false promise. I like the idea of knowing what they need, and the fact that transparency is already kind of given, versus like the concept of throwing my money into an empty promise for a game before it's even finished, and trying to expect that to come back in the way that I want it, if that makes sense. It's just like, because pre-order to the wrong company, and it's like you're gonna get disappointed.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's kind of where I stand on it. I definitely wouldn't pre-order it, but if CD Projekt Red, like tomorrow, was like, hey, we don't have the funding we needed, and we're not quite done with the game, Kickstarter, please, I would drop money on a Kickstarter in a heartbeat. Or even if they just ask for donations with nothing in return, I would absolutely pay a donation to ensure this game gets finished.
Because you know what you're getting into, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just so excited. I mean, if this is just like the start of it, my only fear is that like maybe this isn't like, not everything that we've seen will make it into the game. Because right now they've set the bar so fucking high with this game,
Yeah.
and if it really doesn't hit it, it'll be a huge letdown for a lot of people.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, again, it's CD Projekt Red. We've seen that they are willing to follow up on their promises. They followed up on every promise they made with The Witcher 3. And I don't know if you
I was
saw-
about to say Witcher 3 in and of itself. Like, you just say that name, it's like, that's why I have hope for this game.
I mean, you saw, like, have you seen the pictures of the before and after the development of Witcher 3 for their head developer? Yeah, it looks like a completely different man. He's like completely run ragged. He's got like this really like scratchy beard afterwards. Before he's got like he's got this bright, happy look on his face. And granted, the picture probably was taken like a solid. Like the first one was probably taken when he was ready to have a photo taken, and the second one was probably taken when he was working. He wasn't paying attention. But still, like, I mean, you could just tell like, he's thinner in the second picture. He definitely, like, working on Witcher 3 put him through hell.
Suck the life force out.
Yeah,
of him,
absolutely.
Put
And that's, I mean,
everything that he was into that game.
that's how dedicated these guys are to making these games. And that's why I have so much respect for them.
What a great studio.
I have no doubt that they're going to follow. They're absolutely the kind of company that when they make a promise, they are going to follow up on that come hell or high water.
Yeah.
And kind of to expand on your point, Reed, like, I mean, if they do change a number of things that we were excited about, I'm assuming they'll be replaced by more efficient systems and mechanics that we'll be even more excited about. That's kind of, I guess, what I'm looking forward to. You know, it's just saying like the changes that they do implement that take away from certain systems only make the game better. You know, I don't think they would backtrack a lot at this point.
Yeah.
That
Also,
would be
I think
a dangerous thing. Yeah.
I think the other thing that also be aware is just like even just like people who see this and like their imaginations running away. So it's like as we were talking earlier about like the having relationships with like any random NPC, it's like that's all speculation
Yes.
on my part. And so we really have to be sure to kind of like temper that, I guess.
Dude, their
So it's
fears
like-
were rightfully placed when they said that. Like, I think a lot of studios understand that, and they rightfully probably should have a fear of that, because there are a lot of people who, you know, are consumers in this industry that don't seem to understand the fact that, you know, in development, things change. Like, you know, details change. You know, they get altered, they get replaced and taken out for a better system because it doesn't work with what they're doing over here, or like, you know, it would make more sense to do that over there. Or it's like, you know, there's a number of factors that go into developing an entire game because it's so multifaceted that, you know, when people see early gameplay footage 2 years out from release, they tend to want to hold on to those details and judge the entire game based on, you know, that bit of gameplay that they saw. You know, God forbid, you know, some of those things are different. It's like, you know, now they want to like crucify the studio for, you know, the people who created the game for that. It's just like, without looking at the bigger picture, you know, that it's inevitable that, you know, details are going to get changed. And I'm not expecting when this game releases to see exactly what I saw in that 45-minute video. I know that's not. I hope the template is more or less the same. But if this feature isn't there anymore, or like, let's say in the very beginning with the custom creation, that there's like, you know, how you got your start, like why you came to Night City, and like, you know, who's your childhood hero growing up. If those things aren't there anymore and they get replaced by something completely different, other 3 questions, you know, I'm not going to care, because it is what it is, you know. But I just hope it's better than what we saw. At the very least, as good, if not a better system.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
I think at its core, though, I mean, it's like the bones of this are so strong that I don't think there's like any way that it as a game can be bad, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does.
Like-
It'll be a massive letdown if they just fuck the whole game up. I could not imagine them doing that, so that's the reason why it's not even like a possibility.
I mean, there's just so much that they've shown that even if they took out like a lot of stuff, there's still so much left that makes it good. That that it's basically on such an astronomical trajectory that even if they lowered like what it would be, it would still end up being one of the greater RPGs that's ever been.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
right now it's on the path to being like the best.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's already up there. In terms of what I saw, if that is a consistent tone throughout the whole game, it's gonna be up there like among, Witcher 3, obviously. Like I'd even put it like on the same level of stuff like KOTOR. In terms of just sheer, like I think that this game does have the potential to be that iconic. The people, like in the future, this is gonna be a game that people are looking back on, like, man, I remember when Cyberpunk came out. Like it was just like absolute shit.
I mean, the fact that the people who created The Witcher 3, are essentially making this game to be like the Witcher 3 equivalent in a different setting is already setting a very high bar for the game. I mean, I can imagine following through this completely. I mean, and not only that, but they've put there's a scene in Witcher 3 where they've more or less already kind of tied the lore together.
Yeah.
In a relatively small detail, but it's just to say that like they have every intention on making this game hold up to the same candle that like Witcher 3 was able to hold itself up to. In the end, it's just like I think both of these games are just going to be widely regarded in the next like decade as some of the staples of like what a true RPG is.
At least
This game falls short. Yeah, exactly. Right. If this game does fall short, it'll be a major upset.
See, I mean, based off what I've seen, I don't. There's not a doubt in my mind this game will do well.
And so when is this game supposed to come out?
Literally never.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be okay with that. I mean,
so they've said
not literally never, but
yeah.
I thought it was coming out in 2077.
That sounds about right. So they've said that they're done with the game at this point. Well, not done with the single player campaign is entirely like you can play through the entire main story right now, and now they're working on like cleaning it up, adding details, making tweaks, which in past experience from people I've heard that have been in the industry, take this with a grain of salt because I'm getting this from my internet PhD. It typically takes about the amount of time that it took to get to that point in the time that it takes to actually finish it. So, this game has been in development for a long time, a few years, I believe 3 years. So we expect probably another 2 years before it's out.
that feeling when Bethesda takes like literally longer than it takes to put out this, and their game is still not as good.
Do we need to do I need to just rerun the podcast of me and Derek
From, like,
shooting on
3 years ago.
yeah
Yeah.
for like a half an hour of just me saying Skyrim sucks.
I wasn't there for that, although I listened to it afterwards, but I mean, the development cycle is maybe pretty similar, but I don't know if maybe
around 5 years, 4 or 5 years. Something.
Yeah, which I mean is a long time for a single game. So
I mean, shit. What the console generations are typically 5 to 7 years, so yeah, that's not too far off for just one game.
Yeah, although what was it? The last generation was 8 years, right? 360 and PS3.
That sounds
PS3 to PS4. Or from
Yeah,
PS3.
from PS3 to PS4, that was like 8 years, right?
2000.
Maybe even no, it has to be longer because
I think it was 2006 to 2000.
It's like 10 years.
Yeah, no, I
because
was in
it was
middle
like
school when the Xbox 360 came out.
because Xbox 360, that was like 2005, and I know the Xbox One didn't come out until at least 2014.
Yeah,
Maybe
release date.
2015.
Yeah, it was 2006 for the PS3, and the PS4 was, I want to say, 2013. 2000,
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
7 years. What?
Is it 2013? Is it? Or is it like a year before? It could not have been before 2011. I know that but it definitely was not 2014 either. It's either 2012 or 2013 is what released, which would be 7 years, I guess, roughly. We're roughly due for the next gen. It'll be a lot of people are speculating that that'll be around like 20 or 2021 that we'll get like the big reveal announcement, at least. You know, it may be the following year's E3, but it's about that time.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely feel that. Well, I don't know. I used to be a big console person, and maybe I definitely want to go back because of all the great exclusives. But,
Oh man, yeah. No, between Death Stranding and The Last of Us 2, I'm definitely gonna be going back to my console here real soon.
yeah, but in general, though, it's like I feel like I've definitely bought into the whole like PC gaming just because of the modularity and the flexibility and the longevity.
Absolutely.
But I don't know.
I think I'll always be a PC gamer at heart, but
Yeah.
Death Stranding, like I said, Death Stranding and The Last of Us 2 are definitely causing my faith to waver.
Yeah.
Uh,
Anyway, though.
yeah.
Yeah, I just want this game to be out already. It makes me so excited.
Speaking of
And,
Death
like-
Stranding, you can absolutely bet your ass that when Death Stranding releases their next major trailer, we will be doing another one of these.
Oh yeah, I bet. No, but as far as Cyberpunk, I really want this game to be out because it strikes a chord in me that really hasn't been struck since Fable was around. And Fable's probably one of my favorite. It's definitely I'm pretty sure it's my favorite RPG of all time. Just because it felt like you could literally do everything when it first came out, and that's what this kind of harkens back to. It doesn't necessarily declare it outright, but it heavily hints at it. And it really implies a really huge, diverse, interactive world that is just. I really want to hope and say that this is going to cross like a technological barrier that just hasn't been approached before in gaming.
You're telling me that this is gonna do what Star Citizen is trying to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're kind of pursuing similar things, but different things. Like,
Right. But in terms of
so they're trying.
Star
yeah.
Citizen is very much. They haven't outright stated it, but it's very obvious from the direction they're going. One of their main goals is to try and change the game industry.
Yeah, but that's
and
kind of
pro-
like
and progress
being.
it.
Yeah, but that's like they're building that to be like an MMO, and MMOs are supposed to be that big in scale. And this is trying to do that all for just a single, which I don't know. It gets me really excited.
I think this game is pretty much living proof that single player games are not dead. I remember that being a big thing. That what was it? EA said that a while back.
EA said that, and then God of War happened.
Exactly. I mean, between God of War, pretty much every single console exclusive on PlayStation, I think we're pretty much proving right now that single player gaming is not dead.
Gamers don't like people, and they like to play by themselves, so they don't have to play with people. It's just a proven fact.
Yep.
Bears beats Battlestar Galactica.
Gamers rise up. That's
Oh my God.
I
Can I get
love.
some of that brain bleach, please?
I fucking love that meme.
Oh my goodness. All right.
Yeah, great.
I think that just about does it for us. We
I feel like we just talked 2 hours about.
we didn't. We actually. Oh my God. We did just talk 2 hours about nothing but Cyberpunk.
which
Yeah.
I mean,
It needed that much time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't regret
Yep.
it. I think I'm really happy that we were able to cover that much. But we're definitely getting late now. So, thank you guys so much for watching us. This has been the Not Important Gaming Podcast with Jeremy Reed and Derek. I am Jeremy.
I'm Derek.
Hey, I'm still Reed.
You can find us here every Sunday night at 11:30 Central Time here at twitch.tv/ubaralook. That is UBARALOOK. You can also find us on YouTube. We actually have a link down at the down in the description of the Twitch channel. So just click on Doom Guy's face down there, and that'll take you straight to our YouTube channel. Other than that, thank you guys again so much for joining us, and have a wonderful night.
See you next week.
Love you.